G'day, all you magnificent Hawks fans. Welcome to Talking Hawks, connecting Hawks fans from all around the globe with some good footy conversation, a few laughs in between. And let me tell you, this is an exciting night. We know it wasn't the result at the MCG we were looking for, but personally, if we had to have that result to set up a live stream with this great man right here, Mitch himself, the debutant, he's back quicker. He was actually back quicker than I was for my second episode. So congrats to you, Mitch. You've obviously made an impact, mate. And how are you?
Good, mate. Good to be here. 2 from 2. Excited about tonight to get on with Daz.
Absolutely, mate. So, yeah, only a select few, and we're talking the very minuscule, would know our history, mate. And we go back to Year 9 Chinese Mandarin class. That's how far we go back. In 2012, if you can believe that.
Ancient history, seems like,
Mate,
anyway.
Which was not a good year for the Hawks in the last day in September, but we don't talk about that game. So it is a pleasure to have you on, mate. Hawks fans, we want you to get involved in the comments. Fred is in the house. Well, my night has already been made. Good to have you, Fred. Looking forward to you probably disagreeing with me at some point, Fred, which I love, but it's all a good banter. Con as well. Tommy, all the usual superstars are in the house. Let's start with just a little fact or fiction here, mate, because I kind of need to personally indulge last time, and we'll get into the Hawks game. But this is for my beautiful partner watching, because she actually doesn't believe me about this. So fact or fiction, we got told off a lot in Chinese class for talking about the Hawks. But the last time it happened, it resulted in you getting kicked off the table that I was sitting at, and you were made to sit with a lovely young lady who was on her own. If I'm allowed to share her name, Kayla.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so you were made to sit next to her, mate, and here we are on a live stream together, and you two are still together. Is this fact or fiction?
That is fact. Yeah, you got a better memory than me, Daz. Yeah, that is fact.
Matchmaking, yes. Dazzling, mate. That's where I'm at. If anyone from Tinder wants to get on board, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. Outstanding.
Daz is your man. Yeah, that is fact, mate. All truth.
Brilliant. I still haven't received the thank you yet, but we'll get to that probably at some point, which is fantastic. You'd think 9 years later. But let's get into the result, mate. It wasn't as lighthearted, with a lot of conflicting emotions, I think, for a lot of Hawks fans. I think the frustrations are justified. However, there is a sense from my side, I'd love to get your take, that we had two premiership players, one of them subbed out in Jack Gunston. We took on a team with 21 premiership players, and with 1:45 to go, we still had a chance. Are you glass half empty or glass half full with that performance?
Oh, certainly half full. I was a little bit baffled, to be honest, when I saw some of the feedback. I thought we were pretty good. Obviously, we've had some success over the last, 10 or so years, or even I think we're one of the only sides, or if the only side, to win a flag in every decade since like the 40s or something. So we are used to success, and I think that can get the better of us sometimes in focusing on the wins and losses. For me, not so much about the result and more the performance. I was happy with how we contended most of the game. I think the 11-minute mark of that last quarter, they got out to a game-high 33-point lead, I believe it was. Could have very easily thrown in the towel from there and lost by 40 or 50. So to get back to 10 points with 2 minutes or so left was pleasing, even though the result didn't go our way. Was probably the right result. They did deserve to win. They were better for longer.
Yeah, they definitely were, and it all started in the midfield, and there's a particular midfielder that we're going to talk about later on. Tiger fan here, thank you so much for the glass half full, for sure, for our boys. We appreciate that, and as much as it kills us to see another team have success, to have Dimmer back. Big Kano, I'll give you the 20 I owe you for that, mate. Appreciate that, for giving me the hype up, so I'll get that to you as soon as I can. But I'm gonna start with the controversy, and we're gonna start with the in-house controversy, mate. We were talking about this literally 30 seconds before we jumped on. Daz v the fans, I'm calling this, because on Hawthorn's website, they have their fan MVP. Now, most weeks, we're lucky enough to be in a situation that my player review normally gets published before those results come out. And I've had a look back, and I've only agreed with the fans once in the last 5 games. I gave Jarman Impey the best on ground, the MVP, whatever you want to call it. But I think what stirred up a couple of Hawks fans is the fact that not only did I not give Sicily 5-star, I didn't give him 4. I gave him 3. What were your thoughts when you read that, first of all?
Yeah, I thought he was a bit stiff. I did agree with your best on ground in Jars. I thought he was best on ground. However, yeah, I did say to you off air that I thought that was a little bit stiff, and I was interested to see the fans' thoughts on if it was fair or maybe a little bit harsh. I thought he was good for most of the day. Hard matchup for him on Lynch, one-on-one. He does like to peel off and attack the ball. So someone with Lynch's quality, especially with the form he's in, if that doesn't pay off, he's going to make him pay. And 4 goals, good return for him. But I still thought it was a solid performance from Sicily, and I thought was probably our best offender. Unless you're going to put Jars in that conversation, which you probably would.
I like what Tony said there. I agree with you, but the sustained effort. So we've seen, if anyone's jumped on to see any sort of footy media this morning, it's been about bashing the Bombers for their lack of effort. That, of course, they had to have the emotional game against us, because why wouldn't you? But they've been bashed. We've seen North struggle. We've seen Adelaide come back to the pack in the last fortnight. The results aren't going our way. But apart from the St Kilda game, we're sitting here having 8 of 9 games where deep into games we've got a chance. And I think it's a lot quicker to turn it around than it would be for one of these sides that we're sort of wondering, is there any leadership? Is there any soul? I think that's something we've got over other teams that might be struggling. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Just goes to show, if you look at the last quarter, they get out to 33 points in a Richmond side that looks like they're hitting gears and probably as good as they've looked since their premiership years, or starting to get to that form at least, to dig in and even be within a shot to get back within 10 points. Absolutely shows some good effort. I think it's frustrating because we feel like we want to win those. We've got good history in those games. Those types of games, more rather. But look, they're a better side than us at the moment. And the gap between our A game and maybe our sort of C or D game is a little bit big at the moment, but that is the nature of a young side in a rebuild. Certainly nothing to be too worried about, though.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there are frustrations that we're going to talk about, Hawks fans, but the Hawthorn Footy Club themselves actually had a first this weekend in which we had a win, a loss, and a draw. So the loss coming against Richmond in the seniors, we won. Probably one of the more dramatic finishes for a Box Hill game since Ollie Hanrahan arguably kicked the winning goal in the 2018 final against Williamstown. That's how far back we're going. And we're going to talk to Box Hill's high performance manager, Dylan Vasari, in about 6 or so minutes. So we are going to talk about a few things when it comes to Box Hill, including Josh Morris. Fred, you've already gotten on the front foot there, so I'll pass on how he's going. And we also had a draw in the VFLW. The top of the table clashed with the Bombers, and we couldn't be split. So that's probably a preview to the big stuff with, of course, Melbourne also pretty good there. So congratulations to the girls. They could have thrown the towel in. I think the Bombers had a lead late, and we came home and a really good win. So I just want to touch on those results. Looking forward to talking to Dylan in a sec. Let's talk about a couple of frustrations, mate, before we get Dylan on, because it's a good therapeutic way before we get a very established guest on. Sounds like a broken record, mate, but this midfield, I don't like it. It's my least favourite word in footy. We've only won the clearances once this year, and ironically, it was against St Kilda, and we know how that went.
10 goals, yeah.
Yeah, that one. We levelled with Geelong, but it's centre clearances that killed us on the weekend, and you'd think it would have been Dusty that killed us, but it was Dion Prestia, funnily enough, who just had a day out. I'm actually a big fan of this midfield rotation. So I think this was easy to see coming. The frustrating part for me is Jimmy Warple had every chance to take this midfield over for a game. We know Tom Mitchell's coming back.
Yeah.
6 disposals to 3/4 time. Where do you think he's at?
Yeah, if we could answer that, we'd be going a long way. I don't even think he knows. Certainly was disappointing. And if you were looking at a game to I guess, his best chance to show something and return to form with no Mitchell. As you said, this was probably it. 6 touches to three-quarter time. I think he had 5 or 6 and kicked a goal late. But as good as it was for his confidence to kick that goal, I think all you need to look at is probably not 2 minutes before he did kick that goal, was the one where he quickly threw it on his boot and snapped it goal. Kicked it out on the full when he had Max Lynch running into goal. All he needed to do was hand pass that over the top. Probably just thinking he needs to throw it on his boot and try and get a goal for his confidence. But that, for me, probably shows where he's at. When he's, up and going like we know he can be, a best and fairest winner, he just hits that hand pass every time, makes the right call. Unfortunately, I think he was more playing for personal gain there than the team, which is something that we don't want at any level. Yeah,
I agree. And I think Brooke is spot on in the fact that I think he's honestly going through an identity crisis. He looks like is he the number one man? We've seen he had a full year of being the number one man in the midfield and he won a best and fairest. So I think denying his talent is something that I think would be foolhardy as supporters. But he wasn't well in the end and probably shouldn't have played. As empathetic and sympathetic as I am towards that cause, the gap between this is now, if it was a one-off, I'd probably give him that. This is now 6 out of 9 games he's had less than he's had 15 touches or less. So I said it a few weeks ago when he was made the sub. He needs a 40 disposal game at Box Hill because it's not an angry I'm disappointed. I'm befuddled at the fact that this is a guy that won a best, which is not a fluke. You can be BOG in a game and fluke it, right? We've seen it in big awards before. Not that we want to call anyone out, but this is a guy that's been consistently solid. Even at the end of last year, we were still saying how he was a steal at pick 45. It can't this fall away. Yes, it's on him to fix. I'm still optimistic that he can get it back. I just don't think he's going to get it back with the continuity in the seniors. I don't care if it's one game at Box Hill. Go get 40, Jimmy. If you want to be a ball hog, get 40, mate. Go for your life because he has to be a part of the next premiership midfield. Do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's enough there. Obviously, like you said, he's a best and fairest winner. He's clearly not up to his best, and I think he does need to go back to Box Hill, find some form. If there was ever a chance for him to find some form in the seniors level, it was this week with no Mitchell. He didn't do that. Was poor, made some costly decisions as well. There's no room for that at AFL level, as we know. So I think, back to Box Hill for a week or two, hopefully find some form and then just go from there. Certainly not at his level that we want him to be at.
Yeah. But we are definitely backing him in. Who else impressed you on the day, man? Whether you want to go outside of the box, but who's another player that you kind of want to give a pat on the back to?
I'd like to go Impey because, clearly he was, I think you rated him best on ground as well, but I was actually pretty harsh on him last week. I was almost talking about possibly, dropping him as well. Turned the ball over quite a lot the week before. I was probably a little bit harsh on him, but he's responded well. And I thought he had a really pleasing game. I don't have his stats in front of me. But it was good to see him with his usual run and carry, which he had sort of been lacking. With no CJ on the side, that's positive because obviously we know he likes to run off the halfback flank as well. Also, we touched on it in the preview on Thursday. I liked seeing Wingard in the middle. We probably made that move a little bit late, but we did win 2 centre clearances in a row once he went into the midfield. I'd like to see him spend a little bit more time running through there.
As someone like me, mate, are you... Oh, hang on. We need to pause this conversation because our special guest is here. Dylan, how are you, mate? The high-performance manager of the Box Hill Hawks. And, mate, what good timing it's been after a extremely special victory on the weekend.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Very good timing. It was a great win over Richmond on the weekend, and it was good to run over the top of them.
I think we've stitched up Naps because I think he's the only one we've had on after a loss. So shout out to Nap. We'll get him on when we've had a win. Now, Dill, I'm gonna say this, and I mean this with a lot of respect, and I hope it comes off in a right way. But what is the sort of the job description of a high performance manager for those that might be maybe not as far in the know as the behind the scenes of a VFL club? So what does your week look like, and what do you do for game day?
Yeah, so my role basically is I sort of oversee the physical performance of the side. So work closely with the medical team that is made up of like physios, doctor, psychologist, strength and conditioning coach, exercise scientists, and then also collaborate really closely with Proc and his coaching staff to sort of develop the best program that we can from a physical point of view, just so the team's ready to play on game day, basically. Yeah.
You beauty. So are you more of a silent observer on game day?
No, I have very much like a hands-on role on game day. So I obviously take the warm-up pre-game, make sure everything runs to time in that respect. And then during the game, I have the role of managing the rotations.
Okay.
So I've got like a direct headset up to the coach's box and sort of hearing from a tactical point of view what they want. But also I'm trying to manage our boys, the Box Hill boys, and also the Hawthorn boys to the minutes that they need to be on, whether that be rehab or coach driven. So that's my role on game day. So it can be pretty stressful at times.
I'm hearing the catalyst for the success. That's what I'm hearing in that job description. I know Mitch has got a couple of players that he wants to talk to you about first, man, but I just need to know, what was the message at 3/4 time? We obviously had the wind, but we had a margin to peg back. What was said either by you or by Proc? What was said to the boys that gave them the belief that they could pull off such a stunning result?
Yeah, I think Proc made the bold call of going against the wind in the first quarter. So we knew we had it, and we knew we have been running out games quite well this year. So I think it was just more around the belief of the group and like selling that belief to the players that would show a lot up until that point, and we were sort of building each quarter. So that was the main message, and then the boys really showed that in the last quarter, and it was a really pleasing result.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that as well. Dylan was going to ask how pleasing that was to see. Proc did obviously elect to kick against the wind, which can be a brave call because it can work out like it did on the weekend, but it can also go against you if they get a few quick ones on the board. How pleasing is that to see? Obviously, you've got a plan on how you want to attack the game. How pleasing is it to see the boys really respond at 3/4 time and kick, I think, 7 goals in a row, so 8 goals to 1 in the last term. On Saturday. Yeah,
it was. As I said, it was a very, sort of a risky call, but also, a really bold one, and one that paid off. And I think all year we've sort of backed our guys in to run out games really well, and we knew we could do that. So having that up our sleeve with the wind at the same time, it was really pleasing to see that.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah,
I did also want to ask you about Cal Porter's game. I did read that he was probably best on. So he had 9 clearances, 6 tackles, 4 inside 50s with 23 touches, and he did kick the first 2 goals of that last quarter. How pleasing was his performance?
Yeah, he was amazing. He's one of our spiritual leaders at the club. Cal, he's always got something to say and always, making jokes and all that sort of thing. But also on the ground, he just brings that energy and intent. And you know what you're going to get from him every week, and that's that sort of hard style contested footy. And it was really good to see him able to hit the scoreboard and have a sort of a different impact in that way. So he was amazing.
So a couple of the players that we've just seen come down high performance. We'll touch on that in a sec, Brooke. So Fionn, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The young Irishman was the first player that popped up there. Talk to us firstly about what he's like as a person, and then how pleasing it was to finally see him on the park for sort of the extended run that he had.
Yeah, it was a bit of a journey to get to his first game this year. He's a Hawthorn listed player, so I don't know him overly well from a personal point of view. But I do know that, he's had a really solid block over the last 2 months, sort of building his loads to be VFL match ready, basically. He had a few mishaps over that sort of pre-season period and even early on in the year with some quad issues. The Hawthorn high performance staff basically decided to put through him like a 6 to 8 like mini 6 to 8 week mini preseason, which he got through. And then, I think Proc really highlighted that before the game, that it was his first actual proper competitive game of footy that he's ever played, which is VFL standard, which is quite amazing when you think about it. And he did really well. I think the coaching staff was really happy with what he showed. So, good signs with Dion.
How much direction does he get before the game? Because, first competitive game, you don't want to overload such a youngster with a lot of information. Is it as simple as just go and find the footy? Did he have a specific job? What was his task before the game? What was said to him in order to define his role?
Yeah, I'm not overly sure in that sense. I sort of want to separate my role as I'm not a coach. I'm sort of so I look after the physical aspect of things. But I think the coaching staff, saw him as playing in the back line where he could see the play in front of him and just defend his man first. And then once he's done that, then he's able to attack, which sort of simplifies it for him a little bit. But the coaching staff are also really impressed how he can use both sides of his body. So he has that Gaelic football background and he can kick on both sides pretty well. So that's something the coaching staff are really excited about as well.
You beauty, go for it, Mitch.
Beautiful. I just want to throw one at you from the comments, mate. Not sure if you'll know too much about it, but I did see Ward copped a heavy knock in the game. Had he entered concussion protocols or anything? Is there any concern over his cheekbone, or will he be okay?
I haven't. I believe he was getting a scan, but I hadn't heard anything from Hawthorn at this stage. I'm sure they'll release that when the time's right. But there was also he just had after that knock, he had some concussion symptoms like a headache and stuff like that. And he did do the scat test as well, I believe. So we decided to pull him. But initially they were worried about his cheekbone more so. So I think Hawthorn will probably release some information on that in the coming days.
Cool, thank you. Also, I did want to ask about Daniel Howe's game. How did you see his game? Obviously, he might be pushing for a recall to the Hawks side. How did you rate his game on the weekend? I think he had 24 touches, I think it was.
Yeah, he's been a really consistent performer for us over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. And obviously knocking the door down at Hawthorn and, very consistent. So I'm sure his call-up is just around the corner. But from a Box Hill perspective, we love having him there because he's another guy he know what you're going to get from every week. So having him roll through that midfield rotation is really valuable for us.
Yeah, we like to stick to tradition on Talking Hawks here, mate. Whenever we get someone from Box Hill on, we like to ask about Fergus Green. He's the fan favourite, if you will. And we normally ask about his performance. He was fantastic again on the weekend. If you're allowed to answer, of course, if you're not, we won't push you. But do you think that he would be ready to go on an AFL list again if he was called up for the mid-season draft? Do you think he would be ready to go, whether it would be for Hawthorn or not? Are you allowed to comment on that?
From my personal point of view, absolutely, he'd be ready. Yeah, he's one of our probably one of our most, from an athletic profile point of view, he ticks every box. One of the fittest on our list. He's got great speed. He's a good size, and he gets up and down the ground really well. And obviously, he kicks his goals as well. So I'm sure he's been looked at by some clubs, but who that is, I have no idea. But
that's fair.
I wish him all the best in that regard. But you should get him on. I'm sure he'd love. Have you had him on before?
No, we haven't, mate. He's on the list. Let me tell you, if we can, Greenie, if someone's making you listen to this, mate. Oh, please, that would be fantastic. It's the more you know. Con, another player I was going to ask about. So Benny Kavara. Now, I'm really interested in him because he finally got a chance at the Bulldogs, and then for injuries and for other reasons, he was let go. Did he come with a chip on his shoulder to prove a point that maybe they were wrong about him as an AFL footballer, or is he just genuinely attacking the season to be the best VFL player that he can be? Because he's taken over games almost single-handedly at times during the year.
Yeah, we were absolutely wrapped when he decided to come on board at Box Hill. I'm sure within himself he's got something to prove. He's a very diligent worker and does everything right from a preparation standpoint. And I feel like he actually came off quite a significant knee injury towards the back end of last year, and his whole preseason was basically in the rehab group. So I feel like he's only just starting to get to his best footy now, and he's been building over these last 2 months. So I reckon you'll see his best footy in the back end of the year. But yeah, his performance on the weekend was outstanding as well.
You a beauty. All right, so Brooke, we kind of touched it with the high performance. Have you got any? Oh, there you go. Is this teaching players to play in bursts or endurance? How much of the fitness side of it is incorporated into your role?
Yeah, I run the fitness program and conditioning program basically. So yeah, to answer that question, it's a combination of both. You can play in bursts, but if you don't have the endurance to do it over 4 quarters, then you're going to really drop away. So yeah, you want to have that aerobic base that allows you to do it for longer, and then within that, you want to have that repeat speed, repeat effort ability as well.
Do you believe that building that base is teachable? So if a youngster comes to you that might not have the best aerobic base, now you can obviously build to get to a point, but how much do you think, especially in an aerobic capacity, because football is obviously one of the biggest exponents of aerobic fitness, how much of it is teachable and how much do you think is natural talent before players essentially get to Box Hill?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a big part of our role in the high performance department is education. So yeah, teaching them what it takes to play at AFL level and how to do it and how to go about it. But it really comes up to the individual and their work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Prior history is also really important in that. So if it's a guy who's played three sports all his life, cricket, basketball, footy, and he has that sort of like really strong training background, then that's something that's probably going to come more natural to them. But if it's someone who sort of hasn't had that background before, then it might be a little bit more difficult to sort of build them up. And also genetics comes into it as well. So some guys have that natural aerobic base, like an Ed Phillips or a Tom Phillips from Hawthorn, Ed Phillips and Box Hill. They're both really aerobic beasts and really, really fit aerobically. Whereas, your CJs at Hawthorn or like Cunico from Box Hill, they're more your repeat speed guys. So everyone's born with like a natural ability somewhere along that spectrum. And then that's what makes sort of individual players unique in their own right. So you sort of try and tailor their program to their strengths while you're still building on their weaknesses as well.
Beautiful. So Tim here, do you have much to do with helping players bulk up, maybe for an AFL frame, for example, Jekka or Denver? So how much of a role do you have in the muscle mass as well? I assume it's a lot based on what you've told us so far.
Yeah, strength's obviously a huge component. And those younger developing guys, yeah, they're probably on slightly different programs to the more senior boys who are sort of ready-made and sort of developed into their bodies a little bit more. So yeah, that's obviously a big part, and that the gym is very important in putting on size, but also getting their nutrition right as well.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is Daz doesn't have any excuses, which is disappointing. Thought you could have helped me out there, Dill, but apparently not. Mitch, go for it, mate. We'll try to get a few more comments in there, and then we'll plug the next game.
Yeah, the one other player I wanted to ask you about, and I've seen a couple of comments already, was Callow in his return to Box Hill after playing at some senior level for a couple of games. He had a good game. I think he had 1 goal, 17 disposals. How did you rate his return to Box Hill?
Yeah, really strong. I thought it can get a bit hectic on the bench sometimes when you're doing rotations, so you miss a lot of the games. I have to go back to watch it, but I did see him. His contest work was really good, and he was able to clunk a few contested marks, get up the ground a little bit. And with our ruckman situation at the moment, particularly with Checker going out, he played that second ruck role, so he was able to get in the ruck and sort of use his work rate and his follow up work, which was really good. So hopefully he can string some strong games together and knock that door down at AFL level again.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. I think next up was a bye, and then what's after the bye? It was like, am I correct there? Is it a bye this week or?
Yeah, got a bye this week. So that comes sort of at a timely time. We've had a pretty strong 4 weeks, and then we're off to Gold Coast the following Saturday. So that should be that should be a good test. It'll be good to get away with the group. I think we're going to stay overnight there as well. So it should be sort of a good bonding weekend. And hopefully we can get the 4 points and come back home.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Do you have anything to do with the VFLW program as well? Do you run either high performance or anything with the girls?
No, not currently. No, we have a separate high performance manager there. But there are a few staff members who work across both. Got my hands full with the men's program.
Yeah, mate, I can 100% imagine the girls are flying, which is fantastic. And another message to the AFLW that we are coming. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. So Gold Coast in 2 weeks' time. All VFL games you're able to stream via the AFL app. Which is becoming a bit easier. Apparently, there is a bit of an update that might be coming to make it easier to stream through TVs at home. So, footy fans, keep an eye out for that. Dill, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for joining us, and fingers crossed, Box Hill keep going onwards and upwards, all thanks to your good self. So, thanks for joining us. Fingers crossed we can get you on again, and if you can get in the ear of Greenie, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, will do. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Easy, no problem, mate. Thank you. Mate, what a star.
Very good to have him on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to the Box Hill guys, because we are talking Hawks, not necessarily talking Hawthorn Footy Club. Love the fans getting involved. So let's get back to the seniors, mate, because we've still got a little bit of time here, but we're going to sort of open the arms up. Connor Nash is a player that I want to bring up as kind of the sort of underrated player. As I was kind of going through stats, watching the game again, we got killed out of the clearances all day. He had 7 himself, and he was the only player, I believe, to have multiple centre clearances. I'm not going to let you get away with this because you're essentially a regular now, 2 in a row. Were you a Nash doubter? Are we putting you on the record to say that you were wrong, or did you believe from the start? And you've got to be honest here, because I've admitted I was wrong, which is hard for me to do, but I've done it. Do you need to?
Yeah, early on, I was. I think, unfortunately for Nash, he almost became a little bit of a whipping boy. I think everyone really focused on him and got stuck into him when he maybe had a bit of an off game. So we need to turn around and give him just as much credit in the way he's almost reinvented himself. Really, I think Sam Mitchell's been a big part of that. He obviously spent some time when Mitchell was at Box Hill last year. Absolutely got to put my hand up there. I thought he was really good again on the weekend. Continues to get better, and there's some really positive signs there going forward.
How much money would it take for you to stand still and let him tackle you? How much would? Because I'm thinking that number would be high, because the thought of that's terrifying, and I think Dion Presti is still bruised for that rundown tackle in the defensive.
Not sure if there's enough money, mate, for me to stand there.
We might have
probably
to
a lot.
It
would have to set me up, that's for sure.
I think so. So we've kind of touched on the defensive half, and we know Tom Lynch kicked 4. Let's talk about the other matchup, Denver on Jack Rewalt. Now, I love this because we stuck with it all day. Denver's going to have to learn to play on these guys at some point. And I think a 3-time Coleman medalist was an awesome test. The first 2 contests, Denver was a deer in the headlights. I thought he broke even after that and even started intercepting the ball like we kind of knew he could do based off his draft notes. Sure, was 3-2 the return that we kind of wanted Jack to have? Not really, but I don't see this as anything other than a positive for Denver. How did you see his game?
Yeah, I thought it was good and just got better as the game went on. Rewalt was good early, but I think, as you touched on, he did just get better as time went on. Really positive, a really good learning experience for him. As you said, he's going to have to do this, hopefully for the next 10, 12 years, even more. We'll see. I think it was good. Certainly seems to attack everything head on, and he'll only get better for the experience. Obviously, Rewalt has been one of the best full forwards for the last 10 or so years, probably even more than that. So, he'll only get better from there.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Thank you, North, for drafting Will Phillips instead of him, because he looks a gun. North probably need a centre-half back, but we'll happily take him. Our man, the 2 should Denver wrestle monkey at the next tackling session. Mate, I'd love to see it. If Jake Paul can get into a boxing ring and have plenty of people watch him, I feel like we could get Denver v Monkey, just something going there. That would be outstanding. But let's get to the halfback flankers, mate. I think DJ... can we get that comment back up? Hopefully. I haven't lost it. We haven't lost it. I think DGB will only get better and better. More games. More kilos and more belief in this kid will be a star. Well, I think a third of that, Tony, I think he got the belief. And I think what the contest that made it happen was, I want to say Jack Scrimshaw turned the ball over in the middle of the ground. That's a horrible thing for me to guess. I might have absolutely stitched Jack up there. But you could tell that Denver was out of position. But I think what's comforting in this game, you look at, Jacob Wiedering, Stephen May, what these guys do so well is they scrap. They just get an arm in there. And that's all you've got to do as a defender. He started doing it, and that culminated in, like we said, 1:45 to go. He beat Jack for pace, position, took that mark, and took off, man. I jumped off my couch going, we're in it. And you know what? The ball got smothered. I'll be honest with you, I didn't care. I loved it. And a team with less pressure than Richmond only have the one forward player there. They happen to have two and kick the goal. If they have one there, that ball goes to the wing, and who knows what happens. That brought a smile to my face. This is going to sound like a really bad pun, but the endeavor from Denver, I thought was outstanding in that moment. I don't mean that. I've got worse puns than that are deliberate. So an accidental one, you can forgive me for, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, good to see him take the game on. In a position like that, we have to go there. There's no other option. So it was good to see. Disappointing that, it didn't pay off. But as you said, it's good to see his endeavour. I'll follow up on that pun, Daz.
Thanks, mate. That's what's good about a pun when we back over it. Yeah, it works out beautiful. That makes it better.
It was good to see. There's no other option there. If there was a bit more time in the game, you never know. You probably want a different sort of scenario out of him there. But you've got to take the game on when there's 90 seconds left and you need 2 goals. The only way is to go forward there. It was good to see. And as I already said, I did think he got better as the game went on, and he'll only be better for the experience.
Well, speaking of guys sort of getting into form for some continuity, thought Lockie Bramble for a couple of weeks. I've heard some fans say he looked lost. I definitely think he maybe he probably held off on his instincts to properly go. I felt like he went, Brooke, you and I, mate, we're on the same page. Look at us go. But yeah, he took the ball and he just went with it like he did the end of last year. It was a fantastic return to form. And I'm also going to throw Will Day in there. Mate, this dude needs 40 games in a row to do what he does. And he'll be our best player by the end of probably next year if he plays every game. He's lightly built. And he's a star. Can you imagine what happens when he can get some continuity in his weights program and in his bulk? We'll start with Bramble. What did you think?
It's solid again. As I said, he's only going to keep getting better as well, similar to DGB. No complaints there from me. I have blanked on who else were we talking about? Sorry,
Will Day.
Will Day, yeah. Of course. Will Day. How can I forget about him?
Yeah. My last name's Knight. His last name's Day. Couldn't be that more confusing for you, mate. Come on, work with me.
Day. I thought he was really good. And it is really, really exciting when he does get some consistency. Sorry, as you said. Mate, could be one of the better players of the game. Going to be an absolute star. Can't wait to see him. Let's hopefully he gets a really good run at it.
How's that for a call? I'll take half.
Daz, just saw a good question pop up in the comments. Does Butler get a second game?
I hope so. I think Connor McDonald finally gets that rest because he was supposed to be rested 2 weeks ago, came in for Wingard. Then we kind of did the whole, you can be the sub, you kind of need a rest. Let's kind of get some continuity. And then he did it again. Gunners did his ankle on the quarter time siren, essentially, and played a little bit of the second quarter. I can understand if we go down the road of, he's had some experience, let's put him in a lower level, but Gunners has got to go out of the team. So if we drop Butler, I feel like the natural person to bring in next is either Callow, who's played a game, or Ned Long, who hasn't played one. So I think if he'll be better for the run, I'd probably keep him for a week. Richmond are a difficult defensive team, so I don't really blame. I didn't think he was poor. I think he got into some really good positions. He had some tackles broken. That's going to happen with a young player. So I feel like I'm answering this on the fence. If someone came to me and said it's purely my decision, I'd keep him for another week. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not one for bringing a guy into the side for one game. I think you generally need more than one crack at it. He's got a taste for AFL level now. It was a hard assignment first up. I think he played mostly on Richmond's debutant Biggie, and that was a fascinating matchup. Wanted to see what you thought of what I thought should have been his first goal. I can see why it was called umpire's call, but I thought he was a bit stiff, the young man.
I watching it, I went, it's a goal. And the first replay, I went, oh, you can't overturn that. It was a sick feeling. And it's a bit like umpires calling cricket, mate. We're both cricket fans. So should have had his first goal. Kerry, I completely agree. We're all hoping that he gets it, but it just means that the celebration when he does get it, fingers crossed it's next week. Brisbane, you could argue a tougher assignment, although their defense has probably been their weakest point for the year. So I hope he stays in. Speaking of staying in, mate, I need no sitting on the fence here. We're about to wrap it up. I've got a couple of players I want to ask you about, and then we'll head off.
Yep.
Chad Wingard, I was a fan of his game. Quality, not quantity. 17 touches. They all oozed class. Are you a fan of the sleeves? Yes or no? You can't sit on the fence.
No.
Not all. Oh, that was very quick too.
No,
not a lot of thought. Fans, we want your opinion too. Because I'm not a peroxide fan. I've joked about doing it just to freak out my missus, but let's face it, I got a head that looks like this. I should not be changing anything. But yeah, it's the sleeves. I don't know. The actual jumper looks okay, but Chadwick. Come on, son.
I'm just a bit old school there. I just don't like it.
If I've learned anything on this show, mate, don't call yourself old school when we haven't hit 30 yet, and I haven't hit 25. So we're actually banned from using that saying. All right, 2 players, and then we'll get out of here. First one, Jacob Kazitsky didn't play for the first 6 weeks, and we all kind of went, oh, that's interesting. He's been thrust into a role that's not really his. Second ruckman, centre half forward. He and Lewis finally played in the same team, and I'll give a shout out to Louis here. I thought he was great as well. These two are the tall forwards of the future, 1 and 1A, and the rest of the forward line forms around them now. I think that is, if it wasn't before, it 100% is confirmed to me now. Is it confirmed to you? And what did you think of Cozzy?
Yeah, I thought he was good. He, like, as you said, he's playing a little bit out of his role. When he did go into the ruck, he just gave us a bit of a different look. I think it was Bucks that said on the commentary that Lynch is great at contesting, but he can't really ruck for the whole game. Obviously, he isn't our number one ruckman with Reeves and McAvoy both out. He's doing a good job, but Cozzy was impressive in the ruck, as Jack's just commented on. I thought he was good. Gets a pretty good jump on him, doesn't he? There was a couple of times there in that last quarter that he was good. I think he had about 7 hit-outs, but considering that they dominated the hit-outs for most of the game, I think he's good. Really excited about him and Lewis down there for the next 10, 12 years. Good things to come.
And they can tackle. Like, tall forwards that can, like, I loved Ruff more than most people. And it's not what he was, and he didn't need to. But in such a pressure game, Richmond have won flags on it. We know what Melbourne are like with trapping the ball. Going okay, Cozzy, but he goes to ground too easy. I did notice that, Fred, especially in that second quarter, that he kind of went down. And then I saw Punky go down in the same area of the ground. So I wonder if there was a little bit of slip there, but he can go to ground a touch easy. But this is a guy that had a horrid run with injuries at the start of his career. He's only going to get better and better. But the last player that I wanted to bring up, mate, was Punky. Now, he went missing. Sometimes you've got to be brutally honest, and we love Punky. He's an icon of the Hawthorn Footy Club. Kicked 3 goals. He's had some games this year. Do we chronically, I don't think Hawks fans do, but do you think the footballing public have underrated just how good of a small forward this man has been? He came off the rookie list, if I'm remembering correctly, and he comfortably sits with Milne, Farmer, all of these fantastic small forwards of the 21st century. Eddie Betts, of course. Do you think he gets lost in that conversation? Do you think he's actually underrated as a footballer?
A bit of a hard one for me to answer because I really rate him.
So I think we do as Hawks fans. I wouldn't be surprised if the comments are going, Daz, what the actual hell are you talking about? But just listen to some commentary, I beg of you, when Punky gets the ball. I think it goes under the radar just how smart of a footballer he is.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I rate him really highly, and most Hawks fans do. Probably is a little bit underrated in in that aspect. But one thing that the Hawks have always sort of driven home is they're not more worried about on sort of external ratings. They're more worried about how they rate each other within the club. So I don't think that would bother, Brucey too much. There's always good support from him as soon as he gets the ball from the Hawks fans. When I was growing up and we saw him, I couldn't work out why they were booing him early, and then I realised that they were all saying good.
Yeah, well, then again, as Hawks fans, apparently no one knew how good Birchall was until he went to Brisbane for some weird reason. So what do we know? All right, mate, a couple of things, and then we'll get out of here. So to the Hawks fans, we're frustrated with the midfield. Tom Mitchell should be back, which we're going to need considering Brisbane's midfield bats so deep. Next Sunday, 3:20 p.m, will be on Channel 7 for those that can't get to Tassie, but we beat Brisbane in Tassie last year. We'll talk about all the things that we need to do to beat them this year, which will especially involve how we stop their forward line. But Hawks fans, we know you're frustrated with the midfield. We are as well a little bit. Hopefully with Titch back, that works. The defense, still needs a lot of work. We know averaging 105 points conceded in the last 6 weeks, which isn't fantastic. But this is a growing side with soul, with leadership, with heart. We know where we're going. And as the theme song says, we ride the bumps with a grin, because when we're here a couple of years' time, when we're back contending, these losses are not going to sting so much. They'll become lessons. If you want to help us sponsor the great trio that is Denver Granger Barris, Chanquoth Giath, and Jai Newcomb, the number one midfielder at the Hawks at the moment, the young man is starring. We are going to put all the details, if you're watching this on Facebook, we'll put it in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the comments below, or you could go to talkinghawks.com. It is a big photo with all 3 heads there. It says, help sponsor us. You cannot miss it. There is the link there. We want to reach 4,000 before the buy. We are really close. We're not asking for hundreds from anyone. If you want to get on board, it's a fantastic thing that's happening, and we have been given fantastic access by the Hawthorn Footy Club. Fingers crossed we can get Denver and Jai back on, and CJ for his Talking Hawks debut at some point. So come on, Hawks, give us access to the great man. That would be outstanding. Mitch, speaking of outstanding, mate, you have been outstanding. 2 for 2, A+. Someone put it in the comments before asking if we're brothers, mate. We are, but from other mothers. But I'll tell you what we are, mate. We are Hawks fans through and through. We bleed brown and gold, as do the fantastic fans. So join us for the preview, the Brisbane preview. I was going so well until then, where I think I'll be here, but we'll definitely have some of the crew. We know Chris will be on. Fingers crossed we can get Mitch on again to talk all things Brisbane. It wasn't a great result on the weekend, but I think glass half full, the Hawks are in good shape. I feel like I always take this ramble 30 seconds too long, so I'm going to cut it now. Mitch, been a pleasure. Fans, been an absolute pleasure. Go to talkinghawks.com for all the latest articles. Mitch does fantastic work with editing as well. He's a superstar. All the previews, all the reviews, all those great things. Help us sponsor CJ, Jai. Subscribe on YouTube. We want to hit 1,000 before grand final day, and analytically, we're on our way. So if you haven't subscribed, do so already. Fingers crossed our backstage magician has the outro ready. But Mitch, on behalf of everyone, mate, go the Hawks.
Cheers, guys. Go Hawks. Thanks.